Okay, are we ready?
Okay.
Okay, welcome to podcast number 10. We're in the double digits now, motherfucker.
Yep.
I'll take that as a sign that I have enough videos on this channel that I can go back and make them all public instead of unlisted. I'll do that soon, once I've posted the first proper episode of my Icewind Dale Let's Play, which I should be done editing in a week or so. So, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do, so that you start getting notifications, because...
Yes, do that.
Yeah, because I won't be personally informing you about new videos anymore. I'll just...
Oh.
Yeah. So, opening with the Team Salmon segment.
Salmon! That's gonna be a thing now.
Does it have to be?
I decided.
Okay.
Alright, cheers to that.
Alright, let's talk about the cast of Iris. Since the art style I was going for with Iris was realism, and I didn't know anyone who could pull that off, I had all three of my fellow Team Salmon members each draw the characters in their own style.
One of them is me.
Yes. Once again, I find myself loving Stacy's style so much that I might change it. So definitely going with Stacy's style for SSKV, might go with it for Iris. I don't know. Regardless, yeah, I think my original idea of the series being rotoscoped is not going to be a plausible idea. Even if it is easier than freehand, there's gotta be a reason 2D animation just doesn't exist anymore, It's still creating a unique drawing for every single frame, and it's a particularly unrewarding brand of animating that way, as the artists don't really get a chance to put their own personal touch in. They're only copying what the actors did. I don't think it would ultimately be worth it. We might be able to make a rotoscoped feature film, but a series would be just far too time-consuming. So my new idea for Iris is for it to have the same kind of art style as super cheap cartoons from the 80s, such as He-Man or Gem, which I'm pretty sure were in fact rotoscoped. There just wasn't much movement overall, so perhaps that variety of imitating 1980s animation will work for Iris.
So are you telling me that you took inspiration from both He-Man and Gem?
Those are the first two cheap 80s cartoons to come to mind.
He-Man was great.
I've watched an episode last night to see just to see how it would work, and it was pretty good.
Anyone who says they don't recognize the intro to He-Man is a liar.
I have the power!
He-Man!
And the masters of the universe.
Great.
Okay. As for that feature film, I always wanted to make a movie out of The Eye of Argon, the worst fantasy novel ever written. Rotoscoping that would be hella fun and really fit the style of the story. And maybe then I could play the main character without having to get into shape. Okay, note to self, muse about an adaptation of The Eye of Argon in, let's say, episode 15.
Yep.
So here comes Stacy's art of the cast of Iris. The costume design style, as I mentioned, was inspired by the barbarian fantasy art of Frank Frazetta. I thought it really fit the post-apocalyptic mixture of primitive and futuristic that I was going for with Iris. As of this recording, Stacy has only produced 3 of the character pictures. I'm hoping she'll have all 10 done by the time I edit the visual aids into the recording, but I'm not putting any pressure on her for that. Whatever doesn't get done, I'll just show it off next week. As before, I'm pondering 2 different Dream Voice casts. For one of them, I'll go with what sort of my first draft was, that being that I would use a Canadian cast chosen from the pool of actors best known for Ocean Group anime dubs, Transformers Beast Wars, My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, and a whole bunch of cheap crap that couldn't afford American voice actors. The other is the cast I'm currently going with, which is TAPAS and Stuff members for the Eyes of Gaia, and professionals for the main Gaia members. So here is our main character Iris and her closest confidant Alton. To recap, Iris is a hybrid of human and Little Brown Bat, the eldest of the mutant teens, nominally the leader of the Eyes of Gaia, but utterly dispassionate and detached. I adore the way Stacy captured Iris, just the face and the posture so utterly captures the gloom and depression that's got an iron grip on Iris's personality. The concept behind Iris's outfit is that it's sort of the slave outfit that all of them were forced to wear back when they were lab test subjects. That tiny thing over her heart has the Long Settled University emblem on it. And Iris, alone among the 5 of them, simply never bothers to wear anything else after they're set free. I thought that was a nice way to represent depression, coming from me, who doesn't shave, bathe, or change my clothes nearly as often as I should. I'm sure anyone who's ever had depression knows what I'm talking about. You're on board, right? I'd say the only flaw in the Iris drawing is in her wings. First of all, I think they need to be much larger and have more fingers. I want Iris's wings to be truly massive, so you can't help but believe that she can fly. They're also placed a bit low. They're meant to connect right at the shoulders and waist. That's kind of important because wings are arms, and also I did a lot of work figuring out how a girl with bat wings can actually wear clothes. I figure she's got piercings through her wings so she can put on a bra, and they need to connect above the waist so that she can wear pants. And looking very closely at the drawing, I suddenly realized she made Iris's eyes brown. They're supposed to be just absolutely black. You hear purring? I don't know if purring shows up on a microphone, but Natty's cat is on my lap and purring.
She's not really my cat. It's my mom's cat, actually.
Family cat.
Reminds me, I never had any pet animal in my entire life. Unfair.
Well, this kitty likes us.
Yeah, I think it's because of you. She likes me. Yeah. Moving on.
Okay, Alton is the second in command, a great gray owl hybrid. Handsome, muscular, charming, cheerful, and cripplingly emotionally codependent with Iris. I love what Stacy did with him as well. The abs under the feathers were a nice touch. She captured my unspoken idea of how the mutants whose hybrids are not mammals look significantly less human than those that are completely mammalian. He was always going to be the sexy shirtless guy. That was kind of the concept of the character, but that became a lot less special after I made the decision to have the whole Frazetta connection. Now, most men in the series will be shirtless, but still. My one issue with the drawing is the way his boots appear to be trimmed with his own feathers. I'm not sure I like that idea, but it's, it's always nice to be presented with an idea. So for their voices, my original dream... Cat. My original dream...
That was Nanny sleeping on the microphone.
I don't know. We'll have to find out if that gets picked up, because that's funny.
Yeah.
Funny poor kitty in the background.
Alright, you were saying?
Okay, my original musings, that I would cast Kelly Sheridan and Alessandro Giuliani, who I chose because they were, in my opinion, the only notable Canadian voice actors never to have appeared on My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, though in the years since then, Sheridan has not only become a cast member, but practically taken over the whole show. Anyway, currently, I'd like to cast Mackenzie Eby and myself, founding members of Team Salmon, just choosing people I thought had a decent shape and, face and body type and disposition to be the rotoscoping performance models, but I'll stick with that same bunch of people, even though I'm no longer anticipating rotoscoping the series. It's performance. And here we have the 3 younger and more well-adjusted members of the Eyes of Gaia. Raquel is part polar bear, and she's like the cool one, very laid back and yet meticulous and insightful. Takes care of everybody, doesn't take nonsense. Stacy got all the details right in a second draft. I like the notion that I came up with that Raquel goes with a goth look to match the fact that she actually has black claws. Hidden under her hair, she has the ears of a bear. Stacy originally drew them up near the top of the head, like you usually see in anthro animals, and I told her, I picture them all having animal ears where a human's ears should be. So she just got rid of the ears entirely, which I guess is okay. Sequoia is part gray wolf, a very quiet and withdrawn sort of enigma. And then Meggie, the youngest, part blue marlin, very bubbly and perky, and the one who, of all of them, kind of craves a normal life. As of this recording, Stacy has not drawn Sequoia and Meggie yet. I'm expecting them today or tomorrow. So I have no comments on what you're looking at right now because I haven't seen it yet. We'll talk about them next week. Looks like the purring is creating some waveforms. Hard to tell.
Oh, yeah.
But she's such a purry kitty. She just comes in here and just purrs for hours.
Yeah.
Good
Like a week ago, she couldn't give a shit about us.
But now she loves me.
Yeah.
Good kitty. Okay. When pondering a Canadian cast, I figured Marika Hendricks as Raquel, Lee Tokar as Sequoia, and Andrea Libman as Meggie. Just look them up. I'm sure they've been in something you've seen. And in terms of the people I'll actually call when it's time, Raquel shall be voiced by Stacey Lord, the very artist who did these wonderful designs. Also has voice acting ambitions. And for Sequoia and Meggie, I turned once again to my pool of theater buddies. So I'm hoping to go with Sydney Shackleton and Emily Dozier. I've been in 2 plays with each of them, been to a number of celebrations they've each hosted, and if you watch my Icewind Dale Let's Play, you'll recognize Sydney as the voice of Mordecai, making him one of the first actual, real, TAPAS and Stuff collaborators. As for the 5 adult members of Gaia, Stacy contacted me last night, and she's not sure at the present time that she'll have them done by the time the podcast is released, so, yeah, I'll just talk about them next week. And here's Natty's interpretation of the main 5, the Eyes of Gaia. Her artistic style doesn't quite suit the characters, but I still enjoy and appreciate what she did here. Very cute. Gave me an idea.
They're horrible.
No, I love them.
I have a childish drawing style I haven't evolved for the past 2 years.
Oh, it's very cute. It doesn't suit this series, but it's very good, and it gave me an idea of what you'll be capable of, what kind of stories your artistic style actually does suit, like, say, page turners or...
Yeah, I was hoping I could draw for, like, page turners, because Charlie's style, Charlie's storyline.
Yeah, page turners or something that you wrote, which we're definitely going to talk about in a future episode before I we'll here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk about your projects too. And, well, I'm also hoping right now to display Mackenzie's interpretation of the Eyes of Gaia, so hoping that's on screen right now, but I don't know whether she'll have them done. So you may or may not be looking at some Mackenzie's art right now, or you may be looking at nothing. If you're looking at nothing, or just looking at less than 5 characters, find Kenzie, shame her. No, don't do that. I'm sure she has a life or something preventing her from doing my stuff that I'm not even paying her for.
People usually have stuff. She like goes in school, I think.
Yeah. So
like me.
Yeah. So maybe next week. Maybe no pressure. So when I talk about Stacy's remaining stuff next week, I'll also hopefully have some Kenzie stuff. Now, I get the question a lot of what Iris is actually about, what the story is, what really is Iris. I guess,
what is the plot?
Yeah, I guess in comparison to my other stories, that's a lot less clear. The truth is I don't really know myself. Some sweet kind of vampire, I know the whole story, to the point where I've actually written scripts for the first 2 episodes, which is shocking. Our pack, I know the stories and emotional arcs of the first 4 seasons, and I know that I want it to continue after that with something, and Charlie the Trash Can and Page Turners, I at least know what they're about, but I really don't have a grip on Iris beyond who the characters are, who the organizations are, and I only kind of know their world. The story I gotta work on.
Yeah.
So, final thought in this segment, Iris, RPAC, and SSKV are sort of the main 3 Team Salmon ideas, ideas I conceived about 8 years ago that over the years I've tried to develop as stories and TV series and comics, and which I'm currently trying to arrange into web animation. And I've just realized, I've told you about all the main characters of those shows, and I've just realized that every single one of those characters is heterosexual. That strikes me as unrealistic, if not outright morally wrong. I'd like to change that, but after 8 years, the characters' identities are so ingrained, I'm so fully aware of every single romantic plotline every one of them will ever have. I guess these 3 series are miserable failures in that department, but, let's see, Charlie the Trash Can, Whirlwind, Page Turners. Yeah, there are LGBT main characters in those series, so hopefully at least Team Salmon gets a passing grade overall. I'm ashamed. I didn't do good enough.
Don't.
Note to self, write more gay men into stories. My gay characters are disproportionately women because...
It doesn't necessarily have to be gay. It can be any type of the LGBTQ part.
Yeah, of course.
Like, it can be lesbians, trans people. Also, kudos to one of our friends who came out, not telling the name.
Yeah, well, she's completely out. We can say her name, but you know,
All right.
not important right now. But
No, I'm just saying it doesn't necessarily have to be like gay men.
yeah, I know. But what I was saying is that, you know, when I write LGBT characters, they're disproportionately hot women because I'm a straight guy and that's artistically appealing to me. So yeah, gotta fix that.
You can always get some of my input.
Yes. So, you know, just fix it up. Easy thing to do. Just, you know, work on myself and my writing, and you know, it's not something to really worry about. Just something I've noticed about my past. So, click. And now we come upon the 10th book in the Secrets of Droon series, Quest for the Queen, illustrated by David Merle? I don't know. Nothing to say going in. Let's just start it up.
And this is where I zoned out.
Yes. Chapter 1, a new kind of homework. Eric and Neil are in the bathroom at school, washing up after a little mishap in gym class. In class, their teacher, Mrs. Michaels, debuts. She's a semi-recurring character. As their math quiz begins, the chalk magically floats up to the chalkboard and writes the words, "She is lost," with only the trio able to notice. Naturally, once it's time to head home, they immediately go to Droon, going to a rocky coastline on the edge of a forest. Chapter 2, Strange Strangers. A little boat washes up on the shore, which the kids expect will contain Galen. It turns out to be the magical transforming wagon of Turok the Clown and his partner, the strongman Slag. They tell the kids that Bangledorn Forest is the host of the Droon Quest, a high-stakes chariot race. The kids, recalling that the forest is ruled by Queen Ortha, decide to head into the forest, where they meet Queen Relna in the form of the Red Tiger, who tells them to tell Kia to beware. As the Red Tiger flees, something invisible tosses the kids around before noisily chasing after the tiger. Chapter 3, The Wonder in the Trees. Stuck in a tree, the kids are rescued by an old man who turns out to be Kia in disguise. Feeling guilty that Galen thinks she's lost, Kia leads the kids to Bangledorn City to let Queen Ortha know she's safe. Kia explains that no magic is allowed in Bangledorn Forest, as one of Droon's most ancient laws. Bangledorn City is a city of tree houses, inhabited by the bright green Bangledorn monkeys, who lead Galen to them. Telling him of their invisible assailant, Galen realizes that someone is defying the law of Bangledorn Forest and is pursuing Queen Relna using magic. Galen suspects Demether because at the previous Droon quest 7 years ago, Demether appeared and exchanged angry words with Queen Relna. Chapter 4, Into the Arena. The kids meet Queen Ortha at her palace, and she explains the rules of the quest, a chariot race around the arena, through the forest, and then on foot to the beach, where a magical island appearing once every 7 years appears at sundown, offering the one meant to win the quest a magical prize that he or she wants most in the world. Kia is entering the quest in the hopes that the prize will be a cure for her mother. The trio agree to join Kia in her chariot. Kia senses something sinister as Turok and his wagon enter the arena. Chapter 5, A Princess in Trouble. Kia goes to compete in a high wire event, only to find the invisible person shaking the vine in an attempt to get her to fall off. Eric rescues her, and they chase the invisible assailant through the jungle as he noisily runs away. They follow the invisible guy's footprints to Turok's wagon, just as Turok begins his show. Chapter 6, Droon's Funniest Man. Turok puts on a mildly impressive show that Kia quickly realizes employs magic. Slag appears, having obviously been the invisible assailant all along, and all the pieces of the mystery come together. If Slag was the invisible guy, then it's he who was pursuing Queen Relna, and probably has her trapped in Turok's wagon. Neil volunteers to be the volunteer, I guess, in Turok's show, and Turok makes himself, Slag, and Neil disappear, as Kia sneaks into the wagon. Chapter 7, Turok's Mystery Wagon. Eric and Julie follow Kia into the wagon to discover that inside the place is a palatial mansion. They go down a set of stairs where they find Kia comforting her imprisoned mother. Turok and Slag appear, having imprisoned Neil inside of a tiny glass ball, and attack. Chapter 8. The quest begins. Turok and Slag reveal that they work for Demeter and are capturing the queen on her orders, and entering the quest hoping for a reward of gold and jewels. Turok and Slag escape, morphing their wagon into a chariot, and Kia and the other kids hop into their own chariot to chase down the duo and hopefully win the quest themselves. Turok uses magic to cheat his way past all the quest's obstacles, such as walls of fire and raging rivers. Very cool action chase race scene. Chapter 9, Island of Magic. They reach the magic island just as it rises from the sea, but Turok and Slag beat the kids to the prize, which is just a bowl of water. Chapter 10, A Spell from the Past. Turok and Slag angrily throw away the bowl, spilling out the magical water, which Eric is sure is the cure for Queen Relna that Kia wished for. Turok surrenders Queen Relna to Kia, and Relna explains that now only Demeter can alter the spell. Kia feels sure there must be another way, and soon the red light, indicative of dark magic, bursts from Kia's hands and envelops the queen. Turok recognizes the witchy powers, as years ago in the Dust Hills of Panjabar, he saw Demeter pass these powers along to a very young Kia. Relna turns into her final form, a black dolphin, and disappears into the sea. Turok and Slag flee in their boat, never to be seen again. I really thought that, given their status as Demeter's henchmen, they'd be recurring characters, but this is their only appearance. That's pretty unusual for characters debuting this early in the series. Galen picks up the kids to take them back to the beach, where the rainbow stairs have appeared. The kids go home, content that today they witnessed a happy ending. So this was a fun, action-y book. Turok and Slag were great villains. I was pretty disappointed that they never showed up again. The Bangledorn Forest is one of my favorite settings in Droon, and the quest is a really beautiful and exciting story, so one of the most satisfying entries in the series thus far, I'd say. Adaptation. So, as I mentioned, Mrs. Michaels is a semi-recurring, some guest star, I don't know, I just cast my mom. Yeah, I usually cast real celebrities and professionals in my detailed fantasy casts, but the two people who always seem to make it in there anyway are myself and my mom. In stuff that I wrote, I at least try to pay more service to people from my actual life now, but when fan casting other people's work, my instincts lean more toward the celebrity, but then I keep on throwing in me and my mom. So, Turok and Slag, like I said, I really expected them to be recurring characters. As far as Turok's depiction in the TV series, he'd be human, and as he is in the book, dressed as a clown initially, but more like a bandit later on when competing in the quest. I would cast Zachary Levi in the role. I hope he hasn't gotten too famous at this point to do a guest spot on a TV show. I liked him before it was cool. Huge fan of Chuck. I imagine his portrayal of Turok being very deadpan, the classic subversion of a clown. For Slag, the narration describes him as just a huge muscle man, but the illustrations depict him as this lumpy, gray, earth elemental thing, and that's how I pictured him as a kid. So he'd be a suit performer character, just this bulging, lumpy gray thing, voiced by Patrick Warburton. The Red Tiger, well, it'd be hard to do a tiger as a puppet, same deal as the Red Wolves from before, so we'll figure out a combination of puppetry, stop motion, and if absolutely necessary, CGI. Same with the Black Dolphin, Queen Relna's final form before she turns human again. In my imagination, most Bangledorn monkeys would be depicted by hand puppets, with only Queen Ortha being human-sized. I know that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but I don't think it has to. It's just sort of a fantasy trope, the ruler of a race being way, way bigger than all the other members. As for the scenery of the Bangledorn Forest, I don't know. So whatever really cheap way we can produce beautiful scenery for Droon. I'm thinking a lot of matte paintings and regular paintings, and I don't know, moving on. So today, for the Keys and Kingdoms segment, we're watching The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad, the feature that compiles Disney's short subject adaptations of The Wind in the Willows and The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. As I've mentioned before, I've seen Sleepy Hollow, but not The Wind in the Willows. Natty has seen the entire feature before. So, final film of the package era. I'm excited to end the package era, but also to specifically see this film. This is one package era film that I think could actually have some decent takeaway from it. So, still hanging on to a few trends, still distributed by RKO, still not in widescreen. There's still a title song over the credits, which is A very forced one considering this film's title, so it's just the chorus singing Ichabod and Mr. Toad a couple of times. And still starts with live-action footage of a book, in this case in a library, enabling them to switch from one story to the other. Yeah, at this point I'm intensely curious about when exactly all these trends fade away. The first segment, despite the order in which the title names the characters, is The Wind in the Willows. Ooh. Sorry, just took a glance at what Natty was drawing there, and I was like, ooh, cool.
Yeah, that's not coming up in this episode.
Yeah, not important right now. But okay.
Anyways, Wind in the Willows.
Wind in the Willows, narrated by Basil Rathbone, starring eccentric rich guy J. Thaddeus Toad and his loyal friends.
Just a question, is it actually based on a book?
Yeah.
So a book exists?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, yeah.
So, yes, J. Thaddeus Toad and his loyal friends McBadger, Water Rat, and Mole. So my first impulse would be that these characters in Keys and Kingdoms terms are obviously natives, and yet they're practically at the proper animal scale, not being much larger than real rats and toads, positively diminutive in comparison to the rest of the characters who are mostly human, and to the sets, including their own homes. So that's an interesting take that I definitely wasn't expecting. I think I'd take artistic license if depicting Keys and Kingdoms equivalents to these characters, making them roughly 3 feet tall like all natives who are based on tiny animals. I'm pretty sure that actually happens when Toad makes his appearances in Roger Rabbit and House of Mouse. They make him Mickey-sized. Arguably, you could say that Ratty is a Mishka, but I think I'd define him as a native for the sake of consistency with the other three. The existence of natives does bring up the question of what to do with D&D monsters who are essentially anthropomorphic animals, such as gnolls, tabaxi, bullywugs, and lizard folk. And the solution is simple. Make those creatures less animal-like and more monstrous. That would be cool, especially in the Disney-esque art style I'm currently imagining as the style of Keys and Kingdoms art.
Couldn't those be like they were once natives, but they got corrupted or something?
That's a good idea. That's a thought, yeah. That'd be a good origin for those creatures.
Yeah.
Toad is kind of a cool character archetype that I'd like to see in a role-playing game. You know, the rich idiot always going after the latest fad. And the stately manor of Toad Hall would be a cool setting. Toad's horse talks, which you don't see very often from Disney horses.
No, it's not very common.
Now, the plot is kicked off by Toad's obsession with the recently invented motor car. And I do think that's the kind of thing that could and should happen in the core setting of Keys and Kingdoms. I have a certain interest in the secrets of Droon, as you may have noticed by now, and one thing that interests me about that particular fantasy setting is its unashamed use of cars, airplanes, and submarines in its fantasy setting, created by magical tinkerers. It's a nice touch.
Yeah.
Nanny, did you have any thoughts on Wind in the Willows?
A lot. Like, every time Toad gets, like, this, a new mania, it does resemble, like, a mental illness that they have to do something.
Yeah, they gotta lock him up.
Yeah, I always thought, well, about his manias, he gets one after another, and it could be, like, showed as a actually mental condition.
Perhaps.
It could. I'm not saying it should.
Yeah, it reminds me of autism in a sense, because one trait of autism is becoming obsessed with something new and completely devoting your life to it until the next thing comes along.
Yeah, I have to confess that is actually the case. It happened to me a lot of times. You mean you've seen all of the fandoms I draw and stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually like that. I'm not very proud of it, but that is how it is. I like this storyline, and well, yeah.
Is that all?
Yeah, I think that's all for Winston and Willow.
Okay.
Kudos, I didn't actually knew it was based in a book.
At the halfway point of the film, Basil hands over the reins to Bing Crosby, who opens up a copy of Sleepy Hollow. Unlike Rathbone, Crosby does all the voices in his segment, save a small smattering of female vocals and vocalizations. And characters other than the narrator stay silent except in musical numbers. Brom Bones, the love rival of the segment, he reminds me of a proto-Gaston.
Yeah.
Although, of course, our hero, Ichabod, is nothing more than an opportunist, just taking advantage of people whenever he can, just out to live large, not especially heroic. Although his physical comedy is top-notch.
Yeah.
Crosby calls Ichabod a pedagogue a lot. It's like some scriptwriter had just learned the word and was eager to use it over and over and over again.
Well, he is a pedagogue.
Yeah, but that's not a word.
In Swedish translation, a pedagogue is actually like a special kind of teacher for children who has extra hard in subjects.
Mm-hmm.
Myself, I used to have a math pedagogue.
See.
It didn't help much because of my inability to understand numbers.
Yeah, pedagogue, I looked it up. It's derived from the Greek for a boy's tutor. And, it's not a word I've ever heard before in my life before rewatching the segment. And it's like some writer had word of the day toilet paper and is like, ooh, hey, pedagogue. Anyway, after a very atmospheric scene of Ichabod riding through the forest, we meet the Headless Horseman. He is nice and terrifying, although the comical animation of Ichabod and his horse just kind of ruins it for me. This is my opinion. Ichabod is no Snow White when it comes to protagonists who can carry a horror scene. Especially when Ichabod and the horseman actually collide, and, Ichabod's looking straight down his neck hole while the horseman cackles. It just doesn't work for me. As for the horseman, something inspired by this folklore character who's fortunate enough to have a very iconic Disney incarnation, definitely ought to be some kind of force in Keys and Kingdoms. Perhaps it's some variety of revenant. Natty, take it away. How was the Sleepy Hollow segment for you?
Oh yeah, I seen it before and I liked it a lot. Hated Brom Bones a lot because, well, I was bullied and most of the male bullies I was around was exactly like Brom. Which caused me a small trigger, like the light kind.
Sure, a little bit,
yeah. Also expressing my dislike for big muscular guys who's twice the size of me. That is scary.
It is.
Oh yeah, but he's really mean for absolute no reason, and the girl both Ichabod and Brom is interesting. It's very clear that she's way more interesting in Ichabod than Brom.
Kinda.
Yeah.
I mean, she likes to stoke the rivalry between them. Just to see who comes out ahead. So she's not the best hero either.
The fun part is Ichabod doesn't even see Brom much as a rival. All the times Brom gets failing or knocked out, it's actually big of accident.
Yeah, that is true. Katrina's kind of looking for a rival who's brave enough to stand up to Brom, but that Ichabod comes along and he's just oblivious.
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of works.
And when all of her shopping packages gets dropped all on Brom, Ichabod tries to help him but makes things worse in the progress. That was actually hilarious. Because Ichabod, he's not the kind that would fight guys.
No.
He doesn't like violence. Oh yeah, so but when it came to the Headless Horseman, what really snuffed me out was what the heck happened to Ichabod. He did pass the bridge that was told to keep them safe from the horseman.
Yeah, well, the horseman can't cross the bridge, but, they didn't say anything about ranged attacks.
Yeah. So yeah, no one know. I don't even know if Ichabod survived or not.
Yeah, it's left ambiguous in all versions of the story. Ichabod is presumed dead, and it's implied that the horseman might have just been Brahm trying to scare and or murder him.
Yeah.
So that was number 13 in my 212 item list.
Yeah.
We've ended Disney's second age, the package era. So final thoughts on the package era? It's kind of a dark age. Probably the darkest age Disney's ever had. Darker than the one that's actually called the Dark Age. Very little in it proved to be especially iconic or notable, but I appreciate Disney and his company doing all that they could throughout the World War II era to bring us some form of entertainment. Here's the list. Nanny, your thoughts on the package era?
The package era. I think Saludos Amigos and the Three Caballeros was important for me when it comes to package era.
Yeah.
Because not only the lovely musical numbers and Donald Duck gets in his ace mode, but also it pays a homage to like my Latina part. My mom is from South America, Chile actually. And we were used to watch these two once she got her hands on them on videotapes. And she tried to teach me some samba because she knows like Latino moves and stuff. But I'm utterly hopeless in dancing, so I guess dancing like a Latina isn't, for me.
Yeah, I really liked the Latin
And
American
did you
films.
also know the Three Caballeros that will say Donald Duck, Jose Carioca, and Pachito is actually three embodiments of the North America, like Mexico, well,
Jose's from Brazil. And
from the whole America parts actually, because both south and north.
yeah, so like
Donald
north,
is from
north,
north.
central, and south.
Yeah, north, central, and south.
Oh, yeah, that
Donald
works.
is from north, and Panchito is from central, and Jose is from south.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that. That
You
works.
didn't?
I hadn't thought of that worked. I just thought of them as representatives from their countries, but that does represent the three regions of the Americas pretty well. Yeah.
Well, I never realized it until my mom once pointed it out, and I got interested. Yep.
Cool. So yeah, I'd call
And
this.
Song of the South, I have actually never seen it. I have tried finding in Sweden, but yeah, it seems like it's nowhere to find.
Yeah, I asked Natty before I came here if she could find the DVD, because I know it might have had a European release, but she'd never even heard of it before. So
No, Sweden isn't much for that kind, I think.
and then the last three.
When it
we
comes
saw
to
when I was
package
eight,
here, when it comes to package here in Sweden, all of them is in the original language English, except one segment in Melody Time that was actually rarely dubbed into Swedish language.
Okay.
So yeah, interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. They release them in English because the language is kind of an important feature.
Yeah, also important because English is mandatory to learn in Swedish.
Yeah, so
Like, how
everyone
else are you
speaks
supposed?
English anyway? Yeah.
How else are you supposed to communicate with others?
What was that?
I accidentally kicked something.
Okay. So yeah, next week the 1950s begin along with the Disney Silver Age.
Yeah.
While there were only 6 films in the Golden Age and 7 in the package era, the ages get a lot lengthier from this point on.
Yep.
So as another era ends, it's time to remember that this is not the Disney Marathon segment, this is the Keys and Kingdoms segment, so
Oh yeah.
let me tell you what I've got as far as the game book. I've been reading the Open Game license as well as the genuine 5th edition core rules, and here's what I've got so far. I wrote sort of an introductory chapter, just sort of introducing the concept of role-playing games on the off chance that Keys and Kingdoms is the first tabletop RPG that a person is playing. It could happen.
Yeah.
I've got a nice summary of the basic premise of K&K, an introduction to how RPGs work, details about dice and the D20 system, and sort of an introduction to the core campaign setting, Cosmos. For the 10 races, here they are in the visual aids. I've kind of come up with stats, which I think are pretty reasonable. I'll need to write flavor text about them, but for now I've got like some reasonable stats. I don't know, not totally complete, but I got a pretty good framework. And for classes, well, okay, here's the list of 5th edition classes alongside the subclass archetype thingies each one has in the core rules, including the 2 archetypes designed for villains. Now, the last conclusion I came to was that Keys and Kingdoms should just have the exact class list of 5th edition, exact same rules, all the same subclasses. From what I can tell, I've seen a list of every subclass in every 5th edition expansion, and they just strike me as unnecessary. I think all of these archetypes are all that a setting really needs, so I was gonna go with that. In doing some 5th edition research, I discovered that, pretty much every player always picks the same subclass, because only one archetype per class is actually any good, and besides which, the open game license only includes one archetype per class to encourage users to create their own archetypes. So, I might do that. I might go back to my original plan, which was to create my own archetype subclass thingies, and, try to make every archetype equally powerful. How to do that? I don't know. I'm not a game developer, for fuck's sake. I'm a creative. I know that's a really douchey and pretentious thing to say, but that's just the way my brain works. I know how to write a setting, but I don't know how to fucking design rules, man. I need help.
I think there are some courses to look on that.
Courses in designing a game? Perhaps.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
I mean, there's this game design line on the school I'm studying.
Oh.
Like for those, like after high school.
Okay, yeah, maybe I can find something on Skillshare. I've been meaning to learn some drawing and animation on Skillshare. Perhaps I can learn game design as well. Not design, development. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, one thing I think I can pull off with less difficulty than putting together an RPG is an idea I've had recently in just the past few weeks. 3 Keys and Kingdoms webcomics, all written by me, 1 each illustrated by Natty, Stacy, and Kenzie, in theory. So, I had 3 ideas. One was originally for a Keys and Kingdoms video game I wanted to create using the program RPG Maker. This was before I decided K&K's Reality should operate on 5th edition D&D rules, so instead I think I'll make it a webcomic. Got some interesting characters, a simple storyline, it might work out. Needs a title, a nice title that would cover the premise. Gotta think about that. Up next, I remember a few weeks back when I mentioned a Keys and Kingdoms cartoon series that directly parodies Kingdom Hearts as a Team Salmon idea. I think it would work converted into a webcomic, going by the name I had originally intended for my Kingdom Hearts parody, Kingdom Butts. Because you take the heart emblem and you turn it upside down, and it's a butt. Right? And what really inspired me to this 3 webcomic idea was when I asked my sisters and a bunch of my friends what race and class they would choose if we were running a game of Keys and Kingdoms for market research purposes. All I really discovered on that front was that fairies were by far the most popular race, but then I had the idea to convert the combinations into an adventuring party. I had Ermi choose which archetype each character would take, named and modeled each character after the person who picked that combination, had a couple of other people make some choices so I could have some antagonists, and I've got a webcomic worked out which I call The Choices. I've written the first 30 pages of the script, sort of a first chapter. We'll just see where that goes once we decide which of my teammates will be illustrating which comic. And finally, we come upon the Companions of the Dance Hall segment. In Act 1, Scene 10, the companions enter the Spine of the World mountain range. Bruenor drinks the potion to bring back his repressed memories. And there's a musical number called House of Me Fathers, which is sort of a pastiche of the Lazy Town song We Are Number One, which became a big meme a couple of years back. So it's a number with more focus on the music and the dancing than any lyrical content, where whatever music ends up being written for it, because I can't do it. Look, I'm basically the worst creator in the world. I'm just an idea guy. I need a team. Anyway, the musical number represents Brunor's memories of the mountain range coming back and them exploring the mountains until Brunor finds his way back to Settlestone, the entrance to Mithril Hall. And, yeah, that's it. That's the whole scene. So, yeah, that's the end of the podcast. Natty, play us out. Sing something.
What should I sing?
I don't know.
Let's see. Team Salmon going away very soon on an adventure. Sha-la-la-la.
All right, that works. Okay. Goodbye,
It was
everybody.
silly.
Yeah.
Bye.